So this video today is about polytheism in Israelite religion and the evolution to monotheism, the fusion of Yahweh, El, and Elohim. The transition from polytheism into monotheism in ancient Israelite religion was a complex and gradual process that spanned centuries. Early Israelite religious practice was characterized by the worship of a variety of gods and goddesses, many of whom were inherited from the broader Canaanite and Semitic traditions. The evolution from polytheism to the belief in a singular all powerful God was shaped by the fusion of Yahweh with El, the chief god of the Canaanite pantheon, as well as the absorption of other deities like Baal. Over time, these gods and goddesses were consolidated into one supreme being, driven by religious reforms such as those led by King Josiah. The scriptures themselves underwent editing to reflect a new theological emphasis on a single deity, a process that helps to eliminate the remnants of polytheism, including deities like Asherah. The transformation of these earlier references to a divine council of gods, which was later represented as a council of angels or heavenly beings. So, in its early stages, Israelite religion mirrored the polytheistic practices of surrounding cultures, particularly those of the Canaanites. The Israelites worshipped a pantheon of deities, among them gods like El, Baal, and Yahweh, as well as goddesses such as Asherah. These deities represented various forces of nature, fertility, societal functions, with each god or goddess having specific roles and domains. El, as the chief god in the Canaanite pantheon, was regarded as a supreme deity associated with creation, kingship, and cosmic order. His consort, Asherah, was a mother goddess linked to fertility and the nurturing of life. Evidence of their worship is found in the archaeological artifacts such as inscriptions and figurines, and in biblical texts that describe Asherah poles and shrines dedicated to Asherah. Asherah's worship was widespread in Israel, often practiced alongside the veneration of Yahweh, and she was sometimes depicted as Yahweh's consort or wife, reflecting her early integration into early Israelite worship. Yahweh, more of a localized God, was worshipped alongside these other deities, but as Israel's religious identity began to transform, the Bible phased out the gods, the Elohim, and they started to rewrite the scriptures. So the use of Elohim did not always imply a singular God, but acknowledged a broader divine presence, including multiple deities. So how did Yahweh and El come to be infused? Well, the fusion of Yahweh and El was a critical development in the emergence of monotheism within the Israelite religion. El, as the head of the Canaanite pantheon, was originally a distant and cosmic figure, while Yahweh began as a more tribal god associated with specific events in Israel's history, such as the Exodus from Egypt. Over time, Yahweh's character evolved, and many of El's attributes, including sovereignty over the heavens, creation, and the cosmic order, were attributed to Yahweh. This theological fusion is evident in the text of the Hebrew Bible, especially in early writings that emphasize Yahweh's role as the creator of the world and as the one true God of Israel. In passages like Genesis chapter 1 verse 1 where Elohim is used, the text acknowledges a divine plurality, but later theological interpretations emphasize Yahweh alone as the sole creating force. The transformation of Yahweh from a tribal god into the supreme deity of Israel was a central step in the shift towards monotheism. What about other gods like Baal and Asherah? Alongside Yahweh and El, other gods were worshipped in early Israelite religion. Baal, the storm god and fertility deity, was one of the most prominent of these. Baal's worship was widespread in the ancient Near East and frequently mentioned in the Bible as a rival to Yahweh. The Israelites' flirtation with Baal worship, particularly during the times of political instability, is a recurring theme in the biblical narratives. The prophets, especially Elijah and Hosea, vehemently opposed Baal worship, and the Bible condemns the Israelites for turning to Baal and other gods, often presenting such worship as being idolatrous and morally bankrupt. Asherah, a prominent feminine deity in the Canaanite religion, was often worshipped alongside Baal, with her poles and sacred groves becoming symbols of her worship. References to Asherah in the Bible, particularly in the books of Kings and Judges, show that her worship was deeply embedded in the religious life of ancient Israel. However, as Israel's religious reforms progressed, especially under kings like Josiah, Asherah's worship was systematically eradicated. The destruction of her cult and removal of her sacred poles marked a significant step in the transition towards exclusive Yahweh worship. So, how was the divine council reinterpreted in the Bible? The Bible also preserves evidence of early Israelite polytheism in passages that describe a divine council or an assembly of gods. One of the clearest examples of this can be found in Psalm 82, where God, likely referring to Yahweh, is depicted standing in the midst of other divine beings, judging them for their failure to uphold justice. The passage reads, God has taken his place in the divine council. In the midst of the gods, he holds judgment. Psalm chapter 82, verse 1. This depiction of Yahweh interacting with the other gods reflects a polytheistic worldview in which Yahweh was seen as the leader of a pantheon. In the process, however, of theological reform, these references to a divine council were reinterpreted. Scholars believe that later editors of the Hebrew Bible reworked such passages to align with the idea of monotheism. Thus, in these interpretations, these gods were redefined not as other deities, but as angels or heavenly beings who serve Yahweh's divine purposes. This transformation is also reflected in texts like 1 Kings chapter 22, verses 19 to 23, where the heavenly host of angels is described as participating in a divine council meeting, further distancing the notion of multiple gods and consolidating divine agency under Yahweh alone. So, how did we come about with these reforms and centralization of worship? King Josiah's religious reforms, which took place in the late 17th century BCE, played a pivotal role in the consolidation of Yahweh worship and the elimination of other gods. Josiah's reforms, as recorded in 2 Kings 22 to 23, involved the destruction of altars of Baal, removal of Asherah poles, and the centralization of worship in the Temple of Jerusalem. These reforms were designed to purify Israelite religion and eliminate polytheistic practices, particularly those involving fertility cults and foreign deities. Josiah's reforms aimed to establish Yahweh as the exclusive God of Israel, aligning with the Deuteronomic emphasis on monotheism. The Deuteronomic theology that emerged from these reforms emphasized the centrality of Yahweh, rejecting all forms of idolatry and any worship of other gods. This theological shift not only helped consolidate the worship of Yahweh, but paved the way for eventual theological development of monotheism in Israelite religion. By the time of the Babylonian exile in the 6th century BCE, Israelite religion had undergone a profound transformation, embracing the belief in Yahweh as the sole one true God. The theological development of monotheism involved the consolidation of earlier polytheistic elements into singular divine identity. The shift was reinforced throughout the writings of the Hebrew Bible, particularly in the later books of the prophets and historical narratives, which increasingly portrayed Yahweh as the only creator and the ruler of the universe. The rejection of the other gods, the transformation of the divine council into a celestial hierarchy of angels, and the centralization of worship around Yahweh all contributed to the rise of Israelite monotheism. This shift in religious belief had lasting consequences, not only for the Israelites, but for the development of the Abrahamic faiths, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, all of which inherited the concept of a one supreme God from the Israelite evolved tradition. The evolution of Israelite religion from polytheism to monotheism was a gradual and multifaceted process. It involved the fusion of deities like Yahweh and El, the suppression of feminine deities like Asherah, the elimination of rival gods like Baal, and the reinterpretation of earlier references to a divine council of gods. Through the religious reforms of leaders like Josiah and the theological developments within the Hebrew Bible, Israelite religion moved towards the belief in a singular, all powerful Yahweh. This transformation laid the foundation for the monotheistic faiths that would emerge in the centuries that followed, forever shaping the religious landscape of the ancient world. If you like this message, please like, share, and subscribe. If you're new here, welcome aboard to Safe Space. If you're returning, I'm glad that you're back. In the name of the Most High God, I wish you health, wealth, prosperity, and abundance, blessings, and protection as you so deserve. Have a wonderful and blessed day.